Okay, so where does the Prime Minister go from here? Let's bring in our front bench. Sabrina Grover was a federal Liberal candidate in the 2021 election. She's now a senior advisor at North Star Public Affairs. Larissa Waller is the founder of Henley Strategies. She's the former head of communications for Ontario's Conservative Premier Doug Ford. And former interim NDP National Director Carl Boulanger is also with us. He's now the president of Traction Strategies. Sabrina, it sounds like we have some progress, or the Prime Minister can at least claim some progress, but can he come back from this trip telling Canadians it was a true success?
I mean, I think that there's been a lot of signals of positive movement, and I think trade deals and foreign policy happens incrementally. It doesn't happen all at once unless, a big thing happens or like something big happens. And so I think it can be demonstrated that this was successful. He opened up trade talks with several Asian nations at his conference. I think the meeting with Xi Jinping was historic and also really signifies not just to Asia, but really to the world that Canada's ready to play and ready to enter back into this global game. And I mean, already we have a good baseline of a relationship with Asia that just needs to be expanded upon, right? I mean, if you look at even TMX right now, we export 70% of TMX oil is going to China already. So there is that baseline to expand upon. We're not starting from scratch, even though it might feel like that based on where the relationship's been. And I think this was a successful trip for him.
Larissa, I'll ask you what I asked the Chinese ambassador to Canada, Wang Di. The fact that there was a meeting the previous day between President Xi and U.S. President Donald Trump. And of course, all of this is interconnected. And the fact that they actually came out of their meeting with more progress, with a little bit of progress at least, or removing of some of the tariffs. I mean, how do you think that Mark Carney gets to frame this when he comes back home to Canada?
He's going to call it a success, right? And honestly, having a meeting in and of itself can be viewed as successful, but having a meeting doesn't actually mean having influence. And we have to decide as a country, and it's a hard moral decision, how much do we want to get in the sandbox with China, right? There's a lot of things that China does that aren't palatable to Canadians, to Canadian values. They have a really bad history of executing Muslims. They've got a bad history of how they play in Africa, and we see that massacre in Sudan right now. They have a bad history on being on the wrong side of Russia and Russia and Ukraine. There's a lot of things that we'd have to hold our nose to if we want to get into a more deep economic relationship with China. But we can't afford to be that precious. And so we have to figure out how to balance all those things, right? And the big thing about this is we don't matter that much on the world stage anymore. Our economy isn't strong anymore. So we can have these bilateral meetings. We can try to open up access. But until our domestic economy improves, until we make real moves to encourage international investment, no one's going to care and it won't matter. It's just going to be photo ops.
And Carl, how does Carney do that in the current environment?
Well, I mean, he can take a victory lap and claim that he won. There's a lot of winning happening. But the reality is that unless you bring back jobs and unless you find a way to reduce the cost of living, Canadians will judge him on that. And that's the only thing that matters. So this is why these trips are problematic, because you can have a lot of window dressing and meetings and follow-ups, but the reality is that it takes a while for anything to materialize, and we are in an emergency right now until we find a solution with the Americans, which is not getting any closer. So that's the double whammy for Mark Carney. Now he has some time ahead of him, but there's a reason why there are rumors that the Liberals might win an election sooner rather than later. It's because right now he's still on the honeymoon. He's still surfing that wave. So if he can find a way to get his majority, he might seize that, as opposed to try to survive until the summer when more jobs are gone and none of the trade deals have materialized into anything concrete for Canadians.
Yeah, and as we've been saying, sort of the undercurrent in all of this is the fact that Canada is seeking to try and really move away, diversify away trade from the United States. And I want to sort of talk about that conversation and even that clip on Air Force One that Donald Trump saying that, hey, look, he apologized for the commercial. And the reason I want to bring it up is specifically because of this clip that we have of Doug Ford that came out today on social media. And he was really talking about Buy Ontario. Have a listen.
Chocolate inside. Well, you got me on this one. I got the other ones, but you know something? Once you tell me, I gotta go.
Well, we had to stump you somewhere. It is Rio Thompson.
Rio Thompson, I'm coming to pay you a visit. This is great. This Halloween, make sure you try and buy Ontario made products like the ones in front of me.
Okay, I'm not going to say I just wanted an excuse to play that ad, because Doug Ford continues to be the guy that is championing Canada and saying that he needs to make sure that, he's Ontario candy this Halloween. But Larissa, as somebody who has worked with him, I wonder what the implications will be of Trump saying that Carney apologized to him for Doug Ford's ad, even though Doug Ford continues to stand by it. Do you think that there's going to be any damage control that Mark Carney's going to have to do? Or do you think you already had a conversation with Ford, talk about the framing of this coming out of it?
Of course, he had a conversation. The Prime Minister and the Premier talk all the time, right? And it's probably the Premier saying, hey, buddy, throw me under the bus, apologize for me, tell him you can't control me, right? And Mark Carney's probably saying, yeah, right? Like that's sincerely how that conversation would go. I'm laughing because the world where we are trying to bring in the Premier's Halloween video into the discussion around tariffs and our negotiation with the United States is a bit of a stretch. The Premier is wildly popular on social media. He's very good at making these videos. His social media team is extraordinary. And the point of the video was to highlight Ontario products, which is not the first time he's done this. He started this supporting Ontario businesses during COVID, right, with the Made in Ontario stickers. Yeah. It's grown, obviously, during this kind of era of trade negotiations. I think we would be careful to draw the Halloween chocolate video into the discussion with Trump and tariffs. If that's where we want to go, that's okay. But the Premier will always champion Ontario-made products, and he loves chocolate.
I just wanted to bring it up, Larissa. I mean, it's too good of a commercial to leave out of this show. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you're new to Fridays, but it's kind of our thing to just go a little bit. Look, you brought the Jays stuff. I had to go out of left field. So